Hello. Welcome back.
We always do this in unison.
We do. It's not even intentional.
No, it's really not. We spend too much time together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another guest episode.
Yeah,
today
who have we got?
We have Lillian. She's with us today. Hello, Lillian. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm very well, thank you. So Lillian is a family law barrister, and she's joining us today to talk through all things barrister, pupillage, chambers, you name it.
Everything that we don't know, basically.
Welcome, Lillian. Welcome. So our first question for you is, why did you choose this path? Why did you choose to be a barrister? Pretty broad question, but...
It's a broad question and there's quite a long answer to it, but I'll try and keep it brief. So I had a bit of an unconventional route to the bar. I studied music at undergrad.
Wow.
So
that's interesting. I'm going to ask you about that later.
So yeah, I played piano from a very young age, and then I decided I wanted to be a concert pianist. Decided to then go to conservatoire, which for those of you who don't know, it's essentially a professional music college. Did that kind of in lieu of university. So I was there from 18 to, I think it was 4 years. 18 and
like 2021 maybe, depending on
I remember I did my final year was during COVID, but it was within the period of when I was at music college. I kind of realized, actually, whilst I might love my instrument, I didn't necessarily want to pursue it as a profession. And so during that period I got work experience in local law firms, and then I decided, I want to be a lawyer. But then in terms of being a barrister specifically, I think because I had the performance background, it really stemmed from there.
Yeah. And
I just thought, I think that lends quite nicely to being a barrister. And yeah, from there I did the conversion course, which for those of you who don't know is effectively a law degree condensed into 9 months.
Good luck.
Wow. It was really quite stressful. But thankfully, it kind of all did work out because it happened during, I did it during COVID. And so I wasn't commuting, things like that. I had a lot of time to study because, let's be real, a lot of us had nothing else to do with our lives.
Absolutely nothing.
So yeah, I did the conversion course, and then the world opened back up. And so I did the bar course part-time, so you can do it full-time, but I did it over 2 years, and I worked as a paralegal during that time, getting experience in family law, and yeah, here I am. And then I got pupillage, so yeah.
Leading on nicely.
Yeah.
What is a pupillage? What is a pupillage? Because me and Holly, I don't know about you, Hall, but I have absolutely no idea.
I feel like I know a little bit, but I'll let you explain, Lillian.
Well, for those of you who are listening who are more familiar with the training contract route, route to being a solicitor, it's very similar. We just have a very weird word for it, but effectively it's 12 months of training. So you have to apply for something called pupillage through the pupillage gateway. Some chambers that you apply to, they have their applications outside of what we would call the gateway portal. And I'm sure we'll come to the application part in a minute, but once you get pupillage, which is like training contracts, they're very difficult to get. You have basically 2 sets of 6 months. So your first 6 months, you sit behind what we call your pupil supervisor. And it varies from chambers to chambers. In my personal experience, I had 2. One who specialised in children law for family, and the other who specialised in financial remedies and divorce. And as I say, you are set work by your supervisor. You effectively do what they do, you just don't do the talking. And then your second 6 months, which usually starts in April, somewhat of a cruel joke, mine started on the 1st of April.
Oh no.
Yeah, I really honestly did think it was an April Fool's joke. But the best way I can describe it is you feel as though you're being pushed off a cliff backwards. I'm really selling it here.
Really encouraging.
But yes, you go 1st of April, first day on your feet, you're given your first case. It could be anything. within your practice area, of course. They're not that mean. And you're sent on your merry way to court, representing your first client in your own right. And then that's you up until the end of your second 6 months. Thereafter, each chambers has their own process for approving whether or not you get offered tenancy, because you have to be offered it. Here at my chambers at St Philip's, everybody votes. That
is terrifying. That everyone votes.
I didn't know that.
There's different processes for each chambers. I think the way we work is it's a negative voting system, but don't quote me on this. But myself and all my co-pupils, because we were quite a large cohort, there were 5 of us in total, we all managed to get tenancy, so no one hated us that much. We didn't do anything wrong. That's the main thing. And so now I'm a tenant, and that means I've passed pupillage. So it's like when you complete your training contract, you become a junior solicitor or junior associate.
If there's a job.
So you have a similar thing.
There's a job, yeah. So it's like trainee retention, and I think it is increasing from firm to firm, from what I see anyway.
Yeah.
It's like over 70% trainee retention is the figure that I've seen thrown around most recently. But yeah, it's not everyone that gets kept on. It's if they have a space for a job or not.
And business demand, really, ultimately. Yeah. Business need, but yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not so dissimilar. We just seem to have odd words for things.
Same sort of entry,
so in terms of the application process, what is that like? What could you expect if you're wanting to do this?
It's tough, and I think people going into it should be aware of it, but they're also, I think you're aware of that anyway. Like for you guys, it's tough too. You know, there aren't there aren't endless amounts of training contracts. There equally aren't endless amounts of pupillages. I think there are probably less pupillages.
I feel like,
I think so.
Yeah. And there is an ever increasing amount of people who are studying for the bar, and that is a problem. I don't have the exact statistics, but I know that, for example, for any one chambers, there could be, well, I can speak for St Philip's. Myself and my co-pupil, there were only 2 of us who got family pupillage in my year. And I don't know how many people they had applying, but I can imagine there were quite a lot. So it is quite tough. But that's why you need to make sure that your application stands out. So I think you really need to make sure that you're doing everything you can do. In terms of the application process, there are the generic questions. Why do you want to be a barrister? Why are you applying to our chambers? And I'm not sure whether you have covered this in previous episodes, of those questions appearing on TC
you get similar ones. You definitely get the why law, or like
law.
Why commercial law. Well, it's always why commercial law, even if
it's not where you want to go. It's commercial law.
Yeah, exactly. So you get these questions and you can kind of prepare yourself for them in advance. And I would say, you know, if you think about the first stage of your application is going to be written anyway, these are answers to questions that you can really, really hone in on, and you can make really, really great, so that you don't really have an excuse to not have a good answer for those questions. And if you don't, no doubt the person who you're in competition with will. Other aspects of the application process will include questions about competencies, asking for examples of when was a time that you advocated on behalf of somebody, or when was a time that you disagreed with somebody. Things like that, mainly about advocating and speaking up for people, because that essentially goes to the core of what you do as a barrister. And actually another thing, now I come to think of it, there's usually a topical question, so argue for and against something, and that really is going to assess your written advocacy, as is the whole application form itself. So you really need to remember that when a chambers might be reviewing your application form, the written form, usually they're going to see, can you sell yourself? Because effectively, if you think about what your job will be, you're trying to sell a position to the court, you're trying to sell your client's case, and so you have to be a good written advocate as well as an oral advocate. But subject to you passing the application form, so the the written stage, you then would get through to a first round interview. And unfortunately, if you pass the first round interview, that's not the end of the road, because there's a second round. But it varies from chambers to chambers, and I would probably suggest that depending on which chambers you're applying for, you look at what information is available on their website. For example, my first round interview for St Philip's was very different from my first round interview with other sets. And so it's just important to be mindful of what you're getting yourself in for at that stage. If you're at university studying the bar course, I would say reach out to university. I was at University of Law, and they had a fantastic careers advice service that when I said I've got an interview here, they were able to tell me based on previous students they'd had what the interview would look like. So yeah, definitely make the most of that. But first round interview, generally competency based questions, might be based on your CV, definitely based on your application form. So they'll pick up on things in your application form. If you've answered a question which is about for or against a certain motion or something that's topical, they'll ask you about that. They could be particularly mean and say, can you argue against what you argued for on your application form? So be prepared. And then, of course, as I say, it doesn't end there. You get to second round interviews. They're usually a bit more onerous. So depending on which area of law you're going for, they could ask you to turn up early and then get you to do an oral application. For example, if you're going for crime, it could be something like a bail application. For me, it was in the context of family law. It was, please, can you make submissions on a without notice, ex parte, non-molestation order? And so there are quite strict tests with them, and they will give you the law beforehand, but you're expected to just do it. So you do get time to prepare, don't worry. But you will do anything but not worry. But you'll be fine. You have everything you need, and I think you always just got to keep reminding yourself of that. They could set you work in advance. I had that certainly for St Philip's. I got sent a problem in advance. And had to prepare it and come being ready to talk about it. So really it does vary. And then again, you get more questions about your CV, more questions about why that chambers. So yeah, that's really the application. It seems like it's a lot. It is a lot. But there are ways of preparing for it. And I would say make the most of your inn of court, because when you apply or when you study the bar course, in order to do so, you have to be a member of one of the 4 inns of court. That's Inner Temple, Middle Temple, Lincoln's Inn and Gray's Inn. Gray's are the best.
Shout out Gray's Inn.
And they offer various scholarships. So they offer bar course scholarships themselves for funding, but they offer like a lot of other opportunities. For example, marshalling with judges. So I made the most of that. I got to do some marshalling with a High Court judge. It was really interesting. They offer mentoring schemes. They offer pupillage advice sessions. They have members of the inn, so who are all qualified barristers, and it could be anybody from a senior silk down to someone as junior as me, who will work with you, review your forms, give you advice. So really do get involved in your inn, and it's also a great way to meet qualified barristers and network with them, which ultimately will be invaluable to you. So top tip, make sure you find an inn, apply to the inn, and get involved in the inn.
I just want to ask
there's no room at the inn.
There's no room at the inn, yes.
Room at the inn. Sorry.
That was funny.
Thank you guys. Continue.
I just want to ask some questions off the back of the application process. Do you have to know which area of law you want to go into before you apply for pupillage?
Generally speaking, yes. A lot of them are specialist. You can apply for common law pupillages, for example, which might be a mix of civil law and family, although that is civil law, but it's a facet of civil law which is kind of niche to itself, and then criminal law. So you do all three, and that could be a good way if you're a bit uncertain to apply for a common law pupillage. But nowadays I do find that people tend to gravitate more towards a specialist area. For me, I knew it was going to be family, and that was based on experience that I'd got. Now, I'd done some paralegaling experience and work experience as a student. So when I was at music college, I think as I said, I was getting work experience. I did seats in like criminal law. So 2 weeks in my summer holidays, I did a commercial seat. Sorry guys, was not a fan. Take my hat off to you. I also did a bit of employment, and that was quite interesting actually. But then, as I said, I marshalled with a high court judge, and that was family law. And then it was from there on in, I was sold.
Yeah.
I saw a child abduction case, and I thought, oh, fascinating.
That's my area. That's a bit of me.
Running away with the child. This is what I want to do. And then I got a paralegaling job. So when I was at bar school, that's when I decided I wanted to paralegal in family law. And yeah, I never looked back. But I would say if you can, try and get experience in areas, and then at least you know early on. But it's not a problem if you don't, because there's still pupillages that are available out there, and you've still got time to make up your mind. So it's really no problemo either way.
Yeah. Was your interview one-on-one? I know there's different stages of it, because our training contract, well, for the training contract applications, you have application form, one-on-one interview, is that correct? Invited to an assessment centre, which is like, I had 6 people in mine. I don't know how many you had in yours.
Well, I did a VAC scheme, so it's slightly different.
Oh yeah, we had different routes.
Had different routes.
Which VAC scheme is equivalent to what in the
VAC scheme is an assessment centre, but a week long.
Oh my gosh.
So an assessment centre is either a day or an afternoon.
The equivalent to a mini pupillage, maybe.
Mini pupillage would be like...
What's a mini pupillage?
How many is mini?
Is that like 2 weeks?
Okay, right. Well, to answer the first question, which is about how many people are on the interview panel, my understanding is that it's one person who marks your application form.
Yeah.
I believe there's a panel of people. But then my first round, it varied. Sometimes it would be 3 or 4. My final rounds could be anywhere between 4 to about, I think on one I had 7.
Did you ever have other candidates?
That was not fun. No,
because I think that's the difference, because on assessment centres you're with like 6 other candidates, and you have to do a group presentation together or like a group task. Then you do individual interviews, and there's also, I did a written task, and we're all just sat in the same room writing, and you had like an hour to do it, and then they decide out of that who gets it.
Oh, I wouldn't enjoy that. No, the most contact you have with your fellow competition is outside the room.
Right.
So you're sat.
Okay.
You usually have the person who's about to go in, and when you're going in, there's usually someone that's coming after you. But us wannabe barristers, we're all a bit neurotic, so we like to turn up early. So you usually are around other people, especially, for example, I mentioned that you might be asked to attend chambers early to prepare for a second round interview to do an advocacy exercise. If that's the case, they usually say turn up 30 minutes before, in which case you are inevitably going to bump into somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose my advice on that is really just stay in your lane and be pleasant, be nice, but make conversation. But also remember, you need to focus, and you're not going to be criticised for needing to focus. But yeah, I couldn't imagine doing that.
It's tough, yeah.
It's intimidating. Weird, yeah. I mean, I went through a few an assessment centre. That's like incredible to get to that stage, even because I don't know what the statistics are for that, but it's a slim chance you even get through to the assessment centre, because that's the final stage, isn't it?
I think so. I think it obviously we have different experiences, which is difficult, because I didn't do that. So I did
VAC scheme.
VAC scheme, which was, there was 4 people on mine, but it was out of 4 weeks, so it would be 4 people each week. So I was competing with 12. What's 4 times 4?
16.
There we go. 16 people. I got a C in maths. Sorry. No, I didn't know that. 16 people. And then we had to do a pitch. I had 2 interviews, and then I had to do work within 2 different teams. But then to get the VAC scheme, I had an interview as well, and then a written application and a Watson Glaser. So psychometric.
Oh God, yeah.
So
the psychometric. Do you have to do psychometric tests or no?
You have to do. Honestly, for the life of me, I have forgotten what.
That's good.
I've forgotten what the test is. But before you do the bar course, you have to do something similar. but it's not the Watson, whatever it's called.
Well,
The worst.
It was
The
Watson,
WG.
yeah. It was Watson Glaser, and then firms adapted it to make their own psychometric test. And now some firms are scrapping it.
Yeah.
Which is good because I hate it.
I just don't think it's a good judge of character. Like, not even
No.
character. It shows nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Basically.
That's another
But you do
story.
have to do a test, but it's really not that bad. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
We're not putting everyone. We're not good.
Well, like, don't go
panel
into
through.
law, guys,
Well,
because you have to do X, Y, and Z.
Oh, and the mini pupillage point.
Oh, yes.
So, a mini pupillage is a mini pupillage, but it varies. So it can be. I say it's like a mini pupillage. It's not really, but it is. But you just go to chambers where you apply. So the application form actually itself is a mini version of a pupillage application form, and it varies. Some chambers will want CV covering letter. Other chambers will actually have a dedicated form. But then when you get a mini pupillage, you just go with members of chambers. You go to court. So the clerks will send you with somebody for the day. You sit there and you just shadow the barrister. I suppose the difference is with pupillages, you are with your supervisor most days, unless they send you with someone else. You're prepping for the cases. You're doing the work. As I say, you're just not speaking. Which seems ironic, really, on the basis you're training to be a barrister who speaks for a living. But yes, that's a mini pupillage. But I would highly encourage anybody who is actively wanting to be a barrister to do mini pupillages and apply. It's a great thing to put on your application forms, and chambers will look for it, especially if you're applying to that chambers.
Mhm.
It always looks great to have done a mini pupillage with them.
How
But
long do they last? Sorry. The mini pupillage.
They vary, so you can have any from 1 day to 5 days long.
Oh.
When I was working as a paralegal, I was really limited on my annual leave, and I was obviously banking all the days I could get for study leave. So I think I had one mini pupillage, and ordinarily it was going to be 4 days, but I just wrote to the chambers and I said, look, I'm working full time. Could I reduce it to 2 days because I need to keep my leave for studying towards my exams? And they were totally understanding. So I would say, if you're worried about that, just write to chambers. They get it, and then they're not going to penalise you for that at all. So just be open and honest, and you've got nothing to lose. Apply.
apply. What sort of advice did you get or wish you got when you were breaking into the industry? Because we've discussed how difficult it can be. Was there any significant advice that you got, or any significant advice you'd give to someone being in the position you're in now?
I'd say you really need to own your background and your journey, because I think a lot of the time, particularly in relation to the bar, people often associate it with being super, super intelligent, been to Oxford, been to the best universities, you've just, you've come from a certain background, and not everybody has the same route in. I didn't even do a conventional law degree, and everybody comes at it from a different direction. So no matter what your direction is, I think you need to own it and make it yours. I certainly found that my journey to the bar, as I say, it was different, but I made that my unique selling point, and I used it to my advantage, so that actually when I was applying for pupillage, I was a different candidate. And there's nothing wrong with being different. You just need to figure out how it works for you. And you'll often find that if you are coming from a different place, or you've come in from a different route, you'll have a lot of transferable skills that you can use that are directly relevant to the career and to the profession. For example, I already touched on the fact that my performance background meant that I had lots and lots of performance experience in front of audiences, not necessarily playing the piano. I didn't exactly speak, but still I was, managing under pressure, coping in situations where I was being, flung things that were entirely unexpected. So I think reflect on what experience you do have, and then try and apply that to what you want to achieve going forward. And another thing I wish that I'd been told, looking back, is it's really okay to not feel as though you're as good as everyone else, because when you I particularly found when I joined my inn, I was among people who were really, really intelligent, and I think all of us studying law, we are, you know, you probably are intelligent because you've probably really liked studying, you've been quite academic, but of course there's always going to be people that are smarter than you and people who potentially aren't as smart as you. But I felt really overwhelmed. As I say, I hadn't had a law background. I was entering competitions through my inn for mooting, which are effectively like fake law scenarios where you pretend you're in court and you make submissions to a judge, and they're really good things to do, by the way. But I remember feeling really overwhelmed at people who'd been at law, had done an undergraduate in law, had been part of their mooting and debating societies. I'd never done anything like that. I'd practiced piano for hours and hours a day, and I felt like I shouldn't be there. I felt like an imposter. I felt like I couldn't do it. But actually, it's a skill that you learn. And I just wish someone had said to me, do you know what? It's okay not to be so good at this. You're going to get better at it. So yeah, that's my tip. And that's the advice I would probably give, which is, do you know what? If you don't succeed first time around, just keep going and you're going to get better. You can learn skills as you go. And yeah, just keep going. Be resilient.
I feel
Thank
inspired.
So do I. I'm ready to go now. I'm going to go do another shift.
Are you going to switch over to the bar?
Maybe not.
Just moving on from that then, in terms of the work that you do as a family law barrister, what kind of work is that? What would I be looking at to be doing if I was going to go and do that?
Okay, so family law, I think people often think, oh, divorce. And it definitely is divorce. But it also includes, for example, child arrangements. So that's when you've got parents who are separating and they're having a dispute over who the child is spending time with on any given day. It also involves, for example, and that just backtracking, that can involve, for example, one parent wanting to relocate to a different part of the country. There can also be discrete applications about which child the school should attend, whether or not the child should be given a vaccine. There can be disputes about things like that. And then you've also got another area of what we would say children law, which is public law children law, and that involves care proceedings, and that's often where the local authorities are involved. And these can be quite sad areas because it can involve or concern children where perhaps they're not being cared for properly, or there are allegations of abuse and by the parents towards the children, hence why the local authority are involved, and they're looking to either remove the child or rehabilitate the child, and help the parents be able to provide better care. But those cases can be very sad. There are also other areas of family law. People don't necessarily associate with it, and that includes adoption proceedings. That falls under family law. Proceedings in relation to parental orders, so that concerns surrogates, which is really quite an interesting area of law, I think, especially given the way in which families are developing now. It's not necessarily a nuclear family setup that we're seeing, and there's cases which concern child abduction. I don't necessarily do that, but it is certainly something which is encompassed within family law. And again, this falls into family law, but it can also fall into kind of civil law in a way. But it's cohabitee disputes. And as to what I do on a day-to-day basis, so I'm in court most days of the week. I'd say it's very rare that I'm in court 5 days a week. I like to be in court no more than 4 days a week with one prep day in there. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of work involved. You have written work. Of course, you've got written work. So ordinarily, I can run you through a general day. If I just have a directions hearing, I would do a position statement for that. After the hearing, depending on who I'm representing, which position I am, I would draft the order. You do attendance notes to send to your solicitors. Very demanding.
Have you got it yet?
Send over.
Were you not there too? But yeah, so that's really it day to day. But you could be all day at court. It could be, you know, a whole day listing. It could be half a day listing, in which case, fantastic. You can get back to chambers and you can prep for the next day. I think I was saying to Holly just before the podcast, I've got a 3-day hearing next week, which is quite a big hearing. So I've had a prep day today and I've got a prep day tomorrow, which means I'll effectively be working on the papers, working through that. And because it's the type of hearing where I'll have to be on evidence, so I'll be preparing cross-examination, examination in chief, which is quite a stressful thing to do, but has to be done. Yeah. So hence why you need the prep days. So it really does vary, and I think it does vary from practice area to practice area. So my practice, for example, does not look like some of my fellow members of chambers who are civil practitioners who have a lot more days kind of in chambers working on papers. So it does vary. And then I should actually also mention that so when I was doing pupillage, my co-pupil Millie, she was the crime pupil. I never ever saw her because she was constantly in court. They do multiple cases per day, and honestly, you're like ships in a passing night. So as I say, it really varies depending on which area you want to go into, but I obviously only speak for family.
Can I just ask, do you have to do you have chargeable hours and billable hours? Do you have to time record, or no? Is that not a thing?
I don't time record myself. I think this varies though from chambers to chambers, so I can only speak for St Philip's, but I don't time record within the family department, though I do understand that actually there are other chambers where, especially if you're doing a privately paying case, you will generally set out how much time you've spent on a certain piece of work, so then that can be billed to the solicitor for them to bill to the client.
Right, okay. Maybe we're in the wrong profession, because time recording yourself is horrible, isn't it?
It's not.
I had recording every single thing that you do.
Yeah, I had my experience of doing that as paralegal. It was
it's
quite
awful.
It was difficult. But how it works with barristers is, so we have clerks, and when a solicitor calls up and says, you know, is Lillian available to do a case? It's a privately paying case. Then my clerks would say, well, yes, her fee would be this. And that's what we call our brief fee. Alternatively, if I'm doing a legally aided case, because some areas of family law are legally aided, then it's effectively a set rate. So that varies. I'm not going to bore you with that. But yeah, so...
it's just a question that popped to mind. Anyway, carrying on. You mentioned earlier that you do have a supervisor. How has building that relationship helped you grow in your career?
My supervisors have been invaluable to me. You, of course, learn so much from them.
Yeah.
They are your go-to whenever you've got an issue. Not to say you can't go to other members of chambers. Are you okay?
So sorry.
Do you just have one supervisor?
No, so I had one supervisor, Sarah, who was my supervisor for all things children, and then I had Jonathan, who was my supervisor for all things money, aka divorce. And they were both fantastic, and they have been, you know, they both have been integral in helping me develop.
Yeah.
As you know, as a junior barrister, as I say, whenever I had questions, they would always answer them. They would look over work that they set me. There was a checklist. So St Philip's, we have a checklist of competencies you have to tick off. So, for example, they would set me work. Sarah would ask me to draft a cross-examination. We had to do informal advocacy exercises, things like that, and that's how we would get feedback during your first 6 months. In terms of now, how they help me, I still have questions. I still ask them questions all the time. I will call them, I will message them and say, can I sense check something with you? They've obviously got so much experience, and I think it's making the most of that and using that, because it's a strength that you've got in your armour in a way, because I always remind myself, whilst it might feel like I've been doing this for ages, I really haven't, and I've been on my feet since April of this year, so it's only 6-8 months maybe, whereas they've been doing this for years. And another thing to bear in mind is they also have a lot of connections. So when I would go to events with them during my pupillage, whether it was first or second six, they would introduce me to people, which was really great. So that, it could be another barrister from another set of chambers, but if I'm at court and I can't get hold of someone from my own chambers, if I've met that person before through sitting behind my supervisor or through meeting them at an event, I know that I can then go and ask them a question. And that's one thing I would say for the Midlands circuit. So when you're a barrister in Birmingham in the Midlands, you're a member of the Midlands circuit. I won't go into it, but there are different circuits all around the UK. But the Midlands circuit itself, all very friendly. So whenever I'm at, Birmingham County Court or something, and I've got a question, or I'm in a bit of difficulty, I've got a bit of a sticky wicket, I like to say. If I can't call my supervisor, I'll look around me and think, do I know anybody here who can help me? Or I can just ask a question of who's a lot more senior than me, who'll be able to just point me in the right direction. So yeah, make the most of people who are more senior than you, I would say, and really make sure you nurture that relationship, because it really can help.
In terms of criticism, what would be your advice for taking constructive criticism, and how do you deal with that as like a junior barrister?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because I would say you get feedback in your first 6 months of pupillage. You get some feedback in second six. Well, I did, but when you're doing the job itself, you don't have anybody checking your work. So as to what feedback you're getting and what criticism you're getting, it will be whether or not your opponent seeks to offer that up, though I think that would be very unlikely, or whether or not the judge cares to write you an email saying how fantastic or how terrible you were.
Imagine.
So feedback, it's few and far between when you're on your feet, and that's me being completely honest. But as to how I would take constructive criticism, I certainly had a lot of it on my pursuit to the bar, in my pursuit of the bar. And during my first 6 months, I would get regular feedback from my supervisors. I think you've got to use it to your advantage, because some people can view criticism as a negative thing, but it's not. It's actually a way of taking stock and reflecting and thinking, how can I do better next time? So I do think that being able to interpret criticism as a positive thing goes hand in hand with being quite resilient. And I think whether or not you're pursuing a career as a solicitor or whether you're pursuing a career as a barrister, you need to be resilient and you need to be able to take criticism. I do actually just take back what I said about you don't get criticism. Your lay clients, so your clients, because for us, solicitors are also our client.
Right,
but
I didn't know that.
The person you're representing in court is your lay client, and you will get feedback from specific clients, and they will write to you, or they'll write to your solicitor and say probably what they thought. For example, if I'm drafting a position statement, I'll send that to my solicitor and say, please can you check that this is approved by the client. And the client might come back and say, I don't agree with this, don't agree with this, I want to change this. So you do get some form of criticism, but I don't think it's in the sense that you necessarily meant. It's not like going, when you're back at university and you're getting criticism from your tutors. But yeah, make the most of it and you take it as a positive, use it to your advantage, and just think, this is only going to make me better. And also, you don't necessarily have to accept the criticism. So if you feel that strongly about it,
stay ignorant to it.
just say, "Do you know what? I don't agree."
Bye. I don't agree. Have you ever received any criticism, or do you remember a mistake that you made when you first started out and how you sort of bounced back or handled that?
Yeah,
If you made any.
I've received so much criticism throughout, my time at music college, all the way up to starting pupillage, in pupillage. I would like to think I developed quite a thick skin to criticism, having been a competitive pianist from the age of 8. I know.
Wow. That's crazy.
You're getting criticism in public from, people who are judging you, adjudicators, all the time, and so you do just kind of become quite hardened to it. And music college wasn't necessarily an easy ride in that respect, and it could be difficult at times not to take it personally, because effectively when you're playing your instrument, it's very personal, because it's like an extension of yourself, your interpretation of the music. If somebody doesn't agree with that, they're not agreeing with you and how you think something should be expressed. I suppose in some ways, law, you can detach yourself a bit. It's not your client's position, it's not your position you're putting forward. You're putting your client's position forward. It's what they want. It's what they believe. Of course, subject to reasonableness. So I think reminding yourself that, okay, I'm being criticised for something, and I'm speaking in the context of law here. I'm being criticised for something that, okay, it might be unreasonable, but it's not my position. So it's just remaining detached from it. If it's something to do with how you've I don't know, drafted something, then sure, review it and actually think, would that work better? Maybe speak to colleagues about it. Do you think this would work better, or do you think that actually this isn't very good criticism? I don't think you should shy away from it, and I don't think you should be embarrassed that your work has been criticised. I think I'm repeating myself here, but I do think that criticism is a good thing, and it gives you the opportunity to reflect, and it gives you the opportunity to improve. So just welcome it with open arms.
In terms of progression, what's next for you? Do you have a 5-year plan?
Do you know a 5-year plan?
Do you know where you want to go in terms of being a barrister? Do you want to be a KC?
What does progression look like?
I mean, it's funny you say that, because I was actually having this conversation yesterday at an event about, you kind of get to the end of being, and when you're a trainee, when you're a pupil, you're not a student, but you kind of still feel like you are a bit.
Yeah. I'm a child. I'm literally a child.
A minor.
But you feel like you're at the very top of, you're at the end of that track.
Yeah.
And you've basically made it. You've achieved everything you want to achieve. But you have, right? Because you've been to uni, you've got through the application process, you've then started, you're nearly finishing on this journey. And then I found for me, I got tenancy, and I thought, oh my gosh, I feel like I've got to begin all over again.
Yeah.
I'm at the bottom of the heap. So I do feel like as though I've started from scratch again, which is refreshing, but it's quite daunting. As to what the next 5 years looks like for me, I think it's just gaining experience. I really want to keep gaining experience in all areas of family law. I don't want to pigeonhole myself into a particular specialism too early on. Some people know very, very, very quickly what they want to do, and they might say, I only want to do divorce and financial remedies, I only want to do children law. For me, I'm not 100% just yet, so definitely for the next few years, that's what I'll continue to do. I want to continue hopefully getting as much experience as I can in doing everything, really. It's hard to say. I'm really struggling with this one.
I'm so sorry.
Because I think, like, you know, one could say, I would love to be a KC. I would love to take silk, but then I don't know.
Is that like the equivalent partner for a solicitor? Becoming KC?
Yeah, it
That's
would
like
be.
the last
Unless
place you can kind of go.
Yes, unless you then choose to go to the bench and be a judge.
Right.
But you can
Would
be
wanna
a
do
judge.
that?
You can be a judge before you are a silk.
Oh,
What's
that's
a silk?
interesting.
A silk is a KC.
10% of barristers take. Sorry,
Did you?
only 10% of barristers take.
Really?
So, yeah,
Really?
that statistic stuck with me from A level law. Don't know.
So
if
it could
valid
change from
anymore. This was 2019.
But I found out recently, and I didn't know this, but you have to apply for silk.
Oh, so you're not just like giving it as an accolade? Like,
No,
here you
so
go.
this is so silly. But before I started studying for the bar, okay, I thought that when you took silk, it was because the king chose you or the queen chose you.
Oh my
So
god,
you were like a chosen one. That's why it was called, you know, KC or QC, like Queen's Counsel, King's Counsel. I
Yeah.
was like, you must be selected,
Yeah.
right? But no, you apply, and
I didn't even know what
It
taking
makes
silk.
sense.
Well, I'd never heard it until just.
I understand that it comes from the fact that your robes, so our robes, they change from cotton, and when you become a silk, you take silk because your robes are then made of silk.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But a lot of people obviously do take silk, and people choose not to, because my understanding is that it really changes your practice because you can only do silk level work.
Right.
So I honestly just don't know whether or not that is something that I would necessarily want to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then, and I also don't know whether or not I'd want to sit as a judge, whether or not,
Mhm.
because you can do that part-time. And there are obviously different levels of judge. So
Yeah.
you can be a district judge, you can be a circuit judge, then you can be a high court judge. That's quite difficult to do. So it's no easy feat. So I just don't know. I just don't know.
I think that's a great answer, though.
I think. Yeah.
I think
I
that's
don't
a
know.
brilliant
It's a real.
answer.
Yeah.
You don't need to
Do
know.
any of us know?
Do any of us know? Do any of us need to know? There's
I
too much pressure on
think
knowing.
I don't think you do. And I also think, like, your professional life, it also kind of goes hand in hand, doesn't it, with your personal life, especially
Yeah.
as women,
Mhm.
right? Like, if we have children,
As women.
as women, but if we have children, then we take time out, and then
Yes,
that has
true.
implications.
Yeah.
And I suppose men don't really have to think about that,
No.
No.
but
Side eye.
Side eye to the
Yeah.
men.
Maybe that will change
Who kn- yeah.
in years to come. You know.
who knows?
To conclude is we don't know.
We just
And it's
don't know
okay
anything.
not to know.
Yeah, it's fine.
On the topic of, you know, professional life going hand in hand with personal life, what does your work-life balance look like as a barrister? Because as training,
She's laughing because she knows I don't have one.
I'm laughing because Holly doesn't have a work-life balance. I ate my lunch today at 4:00 because I just didn't have time to eat it at 1. And like, you don't do anything but work, if I'm honest. Holly has no personal time.
I thought you were going to say no personal life.
Oh no, she has. She likes to try.
I like to
But
attempt it.
there needs to be more hours in a day for Holly to get
Correct,
all
yeah.
that she wants to get done and have a personal life.
Yeah, it's a me problem. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, what's your sort of work-life balance?
I feel
Like?
really seen.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that I'm not the only one. But yes, it's really hard. I will say that I'm very good at ensuring that I do, you know, my bare basic things. I don't mean just like meeting my basic needs, by the way. That's a given.
A shower.
But I mean, you know, there are core things that I do for myself because it's really important for me, for my own well-being. So, for example, a Saturday morning for me is non-negotiable. I will go to my running club, and I'm around people who don't do law, and we just have normal conversation. And it means that my Saturday mornings are kind of ring-fenced for me. Even if that means that I have absolutely horrendous weekend ahead of me of prep, I know that I've had my Saturday morning. Equally, Friday evenings, it's quite usual, and I think this is the general consensus among the juniors at Chambers, is we tend to just, Friday evenings, nobody's looking at their emails. If we're working and we're finishing off, you know, a court order or an attendance note for a solicitor, it's guaranteed that, you know, a solicitor is not going to be bothered about whether they receive something at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening because they probably clocked off. A judge equally is not going to, you know, want an order at 6 o'clock on a Friday evening. If they would have wanted it, they would have wanted it by 4 p.m. before they leave at 4:30 or 5. So Friday evenings tend to be, you know, quite sacred.
Yeah. I feel like that's the the difference with maybe barristers and solicitors, because I had an email from a client at 3 a.m.
Oh, really?
Who's why are we up
What
at
do
that
you
time? Yeah, 3 a.m.
Wow.
So like you saying then no one's really are they gonna see it at 6 o'clock on a Friday? In our case, clients literally will email you whenever. There's no boundaries. Yeah.
I suppose, yeah, because we've got the filter. We have you guys to filter it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the middleman. We capped that.
Yeah. That's why it's so much better on our side.
Is this now a competition?
But no, generally, I think we'd all be sat here lying, though, wouldn't we, if we said that it's not a lot of work. It is, especially at the junior end. And I think you go into the career knowing that if you don't like working hard, then I don't really necessarily think you're even going to get the training contract or really the pupillage, because it takes a lot of hard work to get there. So generally people who are entering the profession are aware of the fact that you do need to work hard, and they're not shy of, you know, of that.
I think we've said this before, that going into this sort of career, you already have the expectation that you're going to be working a lot, you're going to be working late, you're going to be working hard. You know, it's a given, so it's expected. Yeah, working late.
Bit more of a light-hearted segment now.
Okay.
We're going to do a quick fire, Lillian.
Oh no,
They're so fun.
We love these.
No. In my professional life, right?
What about personal?
Professional life, you ask me to make a decision, I will make it like that. In my personal life, no. If I'm getting my nails done, please do not ask me what colour nails I want, because I'll be there forever.
Do you plan it before you go?
I try to.
Yeah,
and then,
I'm on
and
the
then,
spot. Like I just go and I'm like,
No.
I'll have this colour today.
But I find even when you try and plan it, like there's so many different. For example, there were so many different shades of red.
So true.
It's all so nuanced. I can't make my mind up.
We're all sporting different shades of, well, this is more of like a maroony brown, but it could be on the spectrum of red in terms of my nail.
We could go with that.
I'm not agreeing with that in the slightest. I'm not agreeing.
That's neither am I.
So this is a time when it's okay to disagree.
Right. I'm going to zoom into your nails on that clip.
I got a
Let's
couple
do a
that need
poll.
to be done.
Mine are being done on Saturday. Right. So,
Anyway.
the quick fire. Lillian, I want to know, what is your go-to court outfit? Do you have one?
I mean, I wake up and anything that's either black or navy or grey, if I'm feeling, you know, that I want to spruce it up a bit. Generally speaking, though, it's probably going to be something from Hobbs. I absolutely love Hobbs. Whether or not it's from Hobbs's new collection or whether it's from Vinted. Vinted is fantastic. Me and my former co-pupil, Katie, now co-tenant, we're obsessed. We regularly send each other links to things on there. So yeah, it's a bit of a problem. But yeah, anything that's dark coloured. To be honest, if I'm not going to court, and let's say I've got a conference, for example, I tend to wear a bit of colour. Because I think, do you know what?
Yeah.
Why not? I spend most of my days wearing dark, dismal colours. Let's spruce it up.
To be adventurous.
Are you someone who prefers working early or working late?
Oh, 100%. I am part of the AM club.
Yeah, love that.
I like, it gets to a certain point in the evening and my brain just stops working and it just feels like mush. So I'd much rather get up at, for example, 4 a.m. and work and then be in bed by 10 p.m.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'm the same.
If you could cross-examine anyone, I'm talking dead or alive, who would you cross-examine?
You.
Why, thank you. I'm flattered.
Doesn't have to be someone that's like been involved in a trial. Literally just anyone that you think would be fun
Yeah.
to cross-examine.
Do you know, well, okay, I'm gonna put a spin on this.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Given everything that's going on in the world at the moment, I would absolutely love, not for me, but for a fantastic, and I don't know who, but you know, a real eminent criminal silk to cross-examine Jeffrey Epstein. I would love for them to do it.
What a great answer.
Yeah, that's.
I wouldn't want to do
really
it,
good
but I would
answer.
love to be sat there in the dock
Mm.
watching. I just think it'd be so fascinating.
Yeah,
I think that's
I
the
agree.
only right answer.
That's
if I'm
brilliant.
honest.
That was better than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would chicken out. No.
I just wouldn't do it.
No.
Wildest thing you've heard in court?
If you can say.
Yeah, if yeah.
I know exactly what I would say,
I can beep it. Leave it out.
but unfortunately,
This is cannot be said.
yeah, it's very, very inappropriate. So I can tell you both later.
Okay.
But no, I cannot say it on the podcast. But I can confirm that you do hear some wild and wacky things, especially in the field that I'm in, family law. And I would imagine the same could probably be said for crime.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
bet.
really is. You
A
can
place.
you hear some rogue things, but yeah.
I'm excited to hear.
if your life at the bar had a theme song, what would it be?
Oh.
Do you know what? It's funny you say that because
Because I've got the answer. I've been thinking about this.
I actually have a song that I listen to when I really need to psych myself up, and I would listen to this. It's funny actually. I think it's been more of a theme song of my life because I used to listen to this song before I would go out and compete playing piano. When I was in the wings of the theatres, I would not listen to the person who was before me. I'd put my massive headphones on and I'd blast it. It will all make sense in a minute. And then when I got the kind of, 10 seconds and you're on, I'd take them off. And equally when I was going for pupillage, I would listen to this song before I went into my interview. And it would just get me in the mood. And as I say, I now listen to it on the way to court if I just feel like I just need a bit of je ne sais quoi to get me in the mood. And it is, drum roll please, Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. And you probably...
I don't know what that is.
What?
Guys! I don't know what that is. I've never heard that in my life.
Right, well,
Who's
two
Meatloaf?
things we've got to do after this session is find out what was said in court and play that song.
I've never heard that.
Sorry.
Do you want to sing it?
No. But did your parents never play this to you?
I don't think I've ever heard it. Not by like the title. I don't know it. Maybe if I hear it, I'll be like, oh.
I feel like you'd recognise it.
It's got a fantastically long introduction.
It's quite a
It's not.
It's a long song. It's like 8 minutes long. But I don't necessarily think you'd associate it with me.
No.
I can't give an opinion on
It's
that.
so great. It's fantastic. You must listen to it.
I will. Don't worry.
But interesting.
Have you got a song at the moment that you're listening to? Because I have.
Oh, like a hype song?
Well, the past few days, ever since the Louvre got robbed, I've been listening to it because I saw it on TikTok.
Right.
The way it's so unserious, so unprofessional, but yeah, I saw it on TikTok and I was listening to it ever since the Louvre got robbed when I'm like walking into work because I just feel like really on top of the world. Bella Ciao.
Oh, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao.
Because someone posted a video saying, do you think the people who did the heist of the Louvre listened to this
Wow.
after it was successful? And I thought, wow. That's fine. Go on.
Sign off.
I haven't heard that song.
Oh, God. I'll play it. Don't worry. You know what?
No.
Do you speak French, by the way?
No.
No.
Only a bit.
we're flashing low battery, so we're going to have to speak.
We're on the last part anyway. I feel like you've got a really good accent when you say je ne sais quoi. Yeah.
French speaker.
Yeah, slightly.
Pretty
Is
well.
it recording again?
It's recording.
Oh, I don't need
Okay.
to.
No, that's fine. We're on our last segment anyway. So, on that note, we're about to wrap it up. Do you want to give your advice to any aspiring juniors who are looking to go into this field? Anything at all? No. No, I don't.
You mean the bar? Who want to pursue the bar, or just generally in law?
I think put yourself in the position of when you were starting out, and maybe have you always been sure that you wanted to do the bar?
When I decided I wanted to convert to law, yes, I was always sure that I wanted to be a barrister.
So any advice that you would give to someone if they were in that position?
Okay, so
as soon as they started out.
If you were coming from a non-law background,
Yeah.
Although it does apply to if you've done a law degree, I would say look at what you need to be a barrister. Look at what you don't have and be objective about it. Take a step back and actually, think, what experience do I have? What experience don't I have? What do I need to do in the next few years whilst I'm, on my path to pursuing pupillage? What do I need to do to be the candidate that chambers want? And in order to find that information out, I've referred to the inns throughout this podcast. They have really, really great resources as, what do they call it?
Don't ask me.
Basically, they have resources on their website which set out competencies and skills you need as a barrister. Look at that and look at what experience do I have, whether it's volunteering, whether it's part-time work I've done while I've been at university. What do I have that I can take from those experiences and apply to the qualities needed to be a barrister? What other things do I need? Mini pupillages, marshalling, mooting. Can I enter essay competitions with various chambers? There are lots of different chambers out there. I speak for family law chambers, and if you are pursuing family law, there are chambers such as 1KBW for paper buildings that do essay competitions. You can enter those. I also understand that there are various associations. I think it's there's one.
Have we entered mush period for the brain?
Maybe.
But get to that point in the evening.
My point being, do your research and you will find that there are so many opportunities out there for you, and make the most of them. And also go to events. Even if you're a student, go to events through your university, go to events through various chambers might put on seminars, whether or not they be open to the public. But if you're working as a paralegal, go to them. If you're working in a law firm and you're trying to get experience whilst also studying, go to events. Try and go with counsel to hearings that your solicitor that you're assisting and supporting is instructing counsel on. Go make that connection. I think it's about forging relationships. It's about that just as much as it is about the experience you've got and the knowledge that you have. I don't know whether you'd agree with that.
No, I think so. Yeah, I do. I
think
second
we've
that
said
completely.
this maybe
yeah.
briefly. We've touched on it being there is more requirements than just the knowledge that you have, basically.
Way more.
We've touched on over and over again.
Yeah, I think there really is, especially because it's so competitive these days. It's not good enough to just be smart.
No.
Yeah.
You have to have more. You've got to bring more to the table. So I think, really reflect on what you do have, what you don't have, and make a plan. Just be strategic about it. That's what I did.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't be so hard on myself.
And keep playing piano.
Yeah.
Do you still play?
Not with these nails.
You don't still play?
Do you do weddings?
It's really difficult. No, are you getting married?
One day I hope. But would you do wedding?
You don't play anymore.
I'll do the divorce. But no, seriously, in terms of just quickly on the advice I'd give to my younger self, I feel really bad for young people these days, because you go to school and then you're just expected to know what you're doing at the age of 18.
Mm.
And I clearly, I did a 180. It's not too late. And I think I worried so much about that. And that I would, I was at music school. I thought, I'm never going to be a lawyer. I'm never going to get to be a barrister. It's so hard. Do you know what? Just take each step at a time, one thing at a time. And just accept where you are at whatever stage you're at, make the most of it, and then move on to the next stage. Don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed, because if you allow yourself to get overwhelmed, then you're only going to shoot yourself in the foot and you'll be your own worst enemy. So that's my tip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like that.
Inspired.
Good
Love
note to
that.
end it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks for having me.
So thanks for
No,
coming.
thank you
Thanks
for
for being
coming
here. This has
on.
been so interesting. Like, I knew literally nothing.
Really?
Nothing. I'd never considered that route. So for me, it's always been solicitor. So
Yeah.
I'd never even really looked at.
I do
Anything to
find
do.
though, when I was doing my GDL, they don't really push the
They
bar
don't.
route very much. It
Mm-mm.
tends to just be solicitor, LPC as it then
Yeah.
was. I'm so out of touch with what it is now. But
cute.
I think so as well. It's not pushed at all.
No.
No.
No. I can think it's not.
it's surprising really, because it's so much better.
Mic drop.
Come to the bar.
Anyway, we're gonna have to show.
That's me. I'm a
On
bean
that
Thank Thank you so much for coming on, Lillian.
Thank
It's been a
you.
pleasure.
No problem. And love the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone should listen.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
Where can they reach you if they want to ask you any questions? LinkedIn?
Yes,
And
I'm on LinkedIn.
I'll put it in the description.
Okay, I'll be tagged below apparently. But if anyone has any questions, more than happy to answer. Inbox is always open.
Great.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Bye.